Thanks for joining us today for our program In Conversation. Today's guest is Heather Patterson, who is the principal of Adult High School. And Heather, you've come to talk to us today a little bit about the program and the people that participate in the program. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Heather, first, just to get us started.
Well, thanks, Lorena. Thanks for inviting me to be here today to share the story of the Adult High School program. We actually have 4 adult high schools in Cape Breton, and a lot of people are surprised by that.
Yes.
They're not quite sure that who we are or what we are about. We've been around since 1996, and we currently run our program in 4 communities: the North Side, Sydney, Glace Bay, and New Waterford. And we service adult learners who have been out of the school system for a while, who now recognize the need for an education and want to come back and receive a high school diploma. Our students range anywhere in age from 17, and I'm happy to say this year we have a lady who's 71 years of age.
Wow.
Yeah, a real inspiration, and she's living proof to the motto that we have in our schools, that it's never too late. And it's certainly never too late because we're all involved in lifelong learning. We've been around since 1996, as I said, and the program continues to grow and to change. But we've had over 600 graduates during that time cross the stage at one graduation or another to receive an adult diploma. And
Incredible.
Each one of them has a unique story that's all about themselves and the accomplishment of receiving that diploma.
Well, and they would, because of the age gap, 17 all the way to 71. Different life experiences would come into play. What is it like for a 17-year-old? Why are they coming to the adult program at this point?
It's an interesting place to see 17-year-olds because we don't often think of them as being adults. And they're sort of at a crossroads in their education. They, have not been successful perhaps in the public school program, are trying to find their way and see the value of an education. And perhaps they've been out of school for a few years and they think that this program will suit their needs in the sense that it's a smaller program. There are fewer students, less peer pressure, less intimidation perhaps than going to a larger school. And the teachers certainly work in a more intimate setting. The class sizes are smaller. And there's an interesting learning process that takes place when, as you said, you mix younger people with older groups. So if you went into our classrooms, we really don't look any different than any other high school, except the gray hair isn't always just on the teachers, but also on some of the students. But it's a real interesting dichotomy of learning, as I said. The interesting thing is with your older students, there's a great fear of technology and of coming back to school after being out for so long. The younger students are very savvy in the new ways of the world, and they like to teach the older students some of the tricks of the trade, how to use the internet, how to type up assignments and things like that, where the adult learners, the older adult learners, tend to share, the life's experience. Do you realize how lucky you are to have a program like this? I wish it was here when I was in school. Perhaps I wouldn't be here today. So there's a sharing of experience and a sharing of ideas, and there can be frustration. I'm certainly sure that our teachers would express, some days it can be quite frustrating. But at the end of the day, I think that they all work well together and they all share in each other's lives.
Well, the right mix for learning, I would think, because of what you just said. Older are able to teach the younger and vice versa, and in ways that they are totally different, and ways that they maybe wouldn't pick up from a textbook. There are life lessons that you can't read about and learn, and there are certainly technology, because that group grew up with it. It was in their, from the young age all the way through their education. Now, you said the 17-year-olds, it's hard to look at them as adults, but what classifies, what is the start age? Is it 17?
The requirements to get into our program is that you have to be 17 years of age or older, and you have to have been out of school for at least a year.
Okay.
So that is the starting point. And at the adult high schools across the province, that seems to be the entry age. I think there may be one board where they take them as young as 16.
Wow.
We've never taken 16-year-olds. 17, you're sort of on the cusp. You're not an adult, and to go back maybe to a school that you've been out of for a few years, you're in with younger students, and there's a great stigma attached to that.
Yes.
So that's a lot of the driving force behind them looking to come to an alternative program. They would rather be in with students who are older
Yes.
than students who are younger. But also a lot of our students, the younger students, are single moms and dads, and you know, they're growing with trying to raise a family, trying to realize what it is to be a parent. There's also a lot of sharing about life skills that go on, about, you know, experiences with raising children and the importance of education, and, you know, life goals, I guess, where they're going to go when they leave our school. So it's a real social learning place.
Well, it would make you wonder if they didn't have a family support system, or they're not, you know, fortunate to have that base to draw from, then who are you going to ask, you know, what do I do when? Or have you ever had this happen? Or have you ever felt this way? And what a unique way to find out. And you would become very close with these people because you're reaching for the same goal. You would think in the classroom, you would think that they would become extremely close.
Yeah, they do. They certainly do. And again, that sharing of ideas. And you're right, a lot of them don't have the support mechanisms at home to teach them the things that they need to learn in life, because it's not all about what you learn in a book, right? It's about learning how life works, how society works. You know, part of the goal of education, one of the large goals of education, is to prepare people for citizenry. And certainly working together with people who've been there certainly helps a great deal in that process.
So what is the typical day? Like, are they going during daytime hours, or how is that working?
Yeah, actually, yes, they do.
They do.
We run
They
just
go-
like a normal high school.
Okay.
We start at 9 o'clock in the morning and we go till about 20 to 3 in the afternoon. So scheduling wise, we don't look a whole lot different than a regular high
Yeah.
school. Our difference is on Wednesdays our students attend until noon. And historically the program's set up that way to allow the parents to make appointments if they have a doctor's appointment, or if they have, you know, to take their children to an appointment. So that evolved over time, and it still works for us because it gives them that half a day to make those arrangements, because life gets in the way sometimes of education.
It does.
And, you know, your children are your key focus, and if you have to take them to the doctors or to the dentist or wherever, that has to be a priority, and we allow that time in the schedule for those things to happen.
Okay. We're going to take a short break. Heather, thank you very much, and join us after the break. Thanks for joining us again, and we're here with Heather, who is the principal for the adult high school, and Heather's going to share some stories with us about the different age groups and what sort of experiences they've had. Some that stand out in your mind, maybe, Heather, of like, take the younger group as an example to some stories that you might have to share.
The younger students that we see definitely present challenges. There's no doubt about that. Sometimes it takes them 2 or 3 attempts before they actually are successful in the end goal, which is receiving their high school diploma. But it's interesting that you would ask that question, because on Friday, as we were getting ready to leave for the weekend, a student popped in to visit, and it was a young girl who joined us. When I first started with the program, which was back in 2001, I was her substitute teacher. And she presented a great many challenges. She did not want to be in school. I'm not quite sure why she was there. It was a building process for her. Anyway, it took her several attempts, but eventually she came back to us, and I believe it was 2003, and she was successful, and she did complete her high school diploma. She did a complete turnaround in attitude and approach. And she popped in to see us on Friday to let us know that all was well with her life, and that she was currently working in trades position, which is interesting for a young lady to pursue the trades. It's certainly a current trend. But she came in to let us know how much she appreciated us and how much our caring over the years meant to her, because there was a great deal of soul searching, I think, that went on in her life to bring her to the point where she is today. Anyway, she came in to let us know that all was well, and she was doing quite well in her chosen career, and just to touch base. And that happens quite often, especially with a lot of the younger students. You'll have them come back and say, remember when you had to suspend me for a day because of some of the actions maybe that I had taken, or do you remember a situation when you had to chastise me, but at the end, they always come back to how they turned it around and they were able to succeed in getting to the end degree. And it's always, those are the stories that always stand out for me. Some people go through flawlessly, and they're all of them, no matter who your students are, they're very dear to your heart. But I think the ones that you struggle with the hardest and you push a little harder are the ones that really stand out. And certainly the lady who came to visit me on Friday was one that really stands out for me. And the younger students, as I said, it takes them a little longer sometimes to get to the end, but when they do, it sure does mean a lot. And the interesting thing I think about the dichotomy, as I said, between the young and the old, is the motivation that those older students present. Several years ago in our Glace-based school, we had a young gentleman who graduated when he was 19. He had come to us, I believe, when he was 17, completed his diploma, was just a top student. And at the end of his graduation, he was able to win a scholarship from Mount St. Vincent University for $32,000. That was a huge moment in the history of our program because it was something we had never seen before. And as a matter of fact, the university came down personally to present the scholarship to him.
What a
that
wonderful
year,
story.
yeah, it is a great story, and he remains, you know, a real pivotal point, I guess, in our program. But the interesting thing about his graduation was, and he was also valedictorian for his class, the interesting thing about it was that that same year, during the 2 years that he was with us, another lady had joined, an older lady. Shortly after she joined the program, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was a struggle for her, needless to say. She was battling health issues, but she was a real trooper, and she plugged along, and she was able to complete her diploma. Now, they were in the same graduating class. And although we were so excited about this large scholarship and the achievement he had accomplished, his focus in his speech and in his graduation was not about his own accomplishments, but about those of the lady who had battled so much to be on that stage with him. And his speech to the graduates was dedicated to her. So I guess that tells you a lot about the nature of the younger graduate, in that they take so much inspiration from the older ones who, you know, they go home at the end of the day and they can play around on the internet. They don't have responsibilities. But these older graduates go home to students, you know, who need their support and help with their homework, you know, who need to cook dinner and do laundry and all of the things that a mother or a father has to participate in. So there's a great deal of motivation to younger learners from the lessons that they see in their older students.
Well, they would. They're perhaps holding down a full-time job, you know, and incorporating all the other aspects of their life and adding this new dimension. And it's quite a commitment. It's almost as if it is a job. You're there, like you said, quite a bit through the week, with the exception of Wednesday. As a young person going into this program, they are probably looking for a bit of guidance. You come to that point as you're a teenager and you're unsure and you're rebelling against a lot of things, and one may be your family and what's taking place there. So you would need somebody somewhere to sort of say, you know, we'll help you, we'll give you that hand.
We'll show you by our own example. They do need a great deal of guidance. The younger students that we see, and that may be true for a lot, they haven't quite learned how to juggle life.
No.
You know.
And how could they?
They think multitasking relates to what they do on the computer, not what they do
Phone,
in life.
Yes, internet, yes.
And they don't realize that it means that you go home and that, you know, you juggle maybe working a part-time job and all of the other responsibilities. So there is a great deal of motivation from that experience.
Now, we talked about the older I guess, group coming back into the situation, and as you said, encountering these younger students in their same position, but I'm at a different stage in my life. We have to juggle, we have to do other things. I still have to be able to feed my family while I'm going to pursue this education. What types of challenges do you hear from this group, or what are they saying about this experience?
there's certainly the time factor, you know, how do I manage all of the things that I have to do in my life? A great deal of fear, because let's face it, first time around they weren't successful. And it may not have been academic challenges that they faced. It may be that, you know, there was peer pressure. It may be that many of them left to raise families. Many of them left to find work. And many of them just didn't see the value in an education. So there's a multitude of reasons why they left in the first place. So all of that hangs over them as they come back. There's the fact that they're older and that they're trying, you know, there's the, can I do it? Am I going to be able to do this from an academic perspective? And there's no doubt in my mind, and we see it every day, that there's a great deal of financial pressure on them. There's no tuition costs for students to come back to school. Anyone who's under the age of 21 is covered by the Department of Education, and the students who come to us who are 21 years of age and older are covered by the Nova Scotia School for Adult Learners, who provide funding to the school boards to run the adult high school programs. So there's no cost for tuition, but people still have to live.
Yes, they do.
You know, and we certainly are thankful to the partners who work with us in this, and that would be the Department of Community Services and Service Canada, who allow students either to collect assistance while they're in school and provide them with the extra support that they need for childcare or for travel, and Service Canada, who, you know, put them through the EI program and allow them to collect benefits while attending school. So without that support, they'd not be able to make it.
No.
And we're seeing more and more of them are working part-time. And it's a challenge, you know. A lot of the students who come work in call centers, and some of them are trying to juggle being in school until 3 o'clock and perhaps going out to work from 4 until midnight. And it's not easy, you know. It leaves you very little time for yourself, very little time to study afterwards, and you need downtime. When you've been in school all day, it's exhausting, and you need that downtime. So they're battling with all of those things as they try to pursue this. So as I said, each one of them brings a unique story to the table and their own personal sacrifice. I know last year one of our graduates was an older lady. We actually had 3 ladies who came to us several years ago when the fish plant was going through some downsizing in Glace Bay, and the 3 ladies came to us. They had been out of school for a long, long time, and they were very successful, and they were able to graduate last year. One lady was 64 years of age as she walked across that stage to get her high school diploma. That certainly motivates everybody, but they all experienced a variety of challenges with, you know, can I do it? Can I afford to do it? And one of the ladies particularly sticks out in my mind because her husband passed away. So during the time between when she enrolled and when she graduated, her husband was going through a battle with cancer and unfortunately lost that battle. So she was attending school, leaving school to go to the hospital to nurse her husband, yet maintained her education. Like, how does that not motivate a person to do everything that they can do to make these people successful? Certainly there's a lot of tears when it comes time for graduation.
And there
you know,
would be.
yeah, as you watch these individual people go across that stage, each one of them brings such a unique perspective, and it's those emotions that you build with people. The teachers become very, very close with the students because you have to go to your teachers when there's an issue, like my husband's dying. How can you accommodate my learning around this, you know, family tragedy? And so the teachers and the students become extremely close. And as most people say who do attend our graduation ceremonies, that they're very moving experiences. And again, as each one crosses that stage to receive the diploma, you know that there's a huge story behind their progress and success.
And there would be. And Heather, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back. We're continuing our conversation with Heather about adult high school. Heather, before the break, we talked about the graduation. That's sort of the end wonderful result of this long journey, or sometimes hard journey. Now, it's easy to see at the base of the mountain that they see this enormous feat ahead. Looking back, it's probably a lot different, and they would encourage other people to get involved. Now, how do you get involved? Like, what is somebody that's watching or someone that knows someone that's watching? What would they do to become involved?
Well, the first thing that they can do, the first thing I would encourage them to do is to contact our office, the Office of Community Education, to inquire about the program. I would have potential students come in, visit with me. We sit down and we discuss the program. We take students in twice a year, in September and in January for a February start. Our semesters run the same as a regular high school would. So that's the first step. They come in, we sit down, we discuss their suitability to the program, what credits or courses they need to graduate, what they bring to the table with them, because many do come with prior credits. So we sit down, we register them and try to prepare them for what's ahead, let them meet the teachers and see the school and get acclimatized, and hopefully that convinces them that this is what they want to do.
So it's a very personal contact they're making right from the very beginning. They're meeting with
Absolutely.
you or they're speaking with the teacher. Certainly not something that they should be wary of. They can come in and feel comfortable right away. Are they able to drop in Monday to Friday? Any business hours?
Yes, absolutely. And as I mentioned before, we have 4 sites. So if someone calls from another community, I make arrangements to meet with them at the school that they would be attending, so they see firsthand where it is they're going to be going. And it is very personal. It's one-on-one, or two-on-one, I guess, depending if the teachers are involved. But we try to get them in and get them to get a feel for the place so that it's less intimidating the first day they walk through the doors and actually have to sit behind a desk and be a student.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can they now, because of the different mediums, they can contact you by phone, by website? There's all sorts of ways to communicate, and hopefully we'll have that up as well. What would you say to someone who is considering participating in this type of program, who needs it?
I would encourage them wholeheartedly to give it a try, to see if it's the fit for them. There are a variety of ways that you can get an education, but from our own experiences with the program, the face-to-face with the teacher is for many of them very crucial. Some have tried things like correspondence study.
Yes.
Doesn't work for them because they need the support of the teacher in front of them, teaching them and helping them along the way. So again, I encourage them to come in. Our motto, as I said earlier, it's never too late. The fact that we have a lady who's 71 years of age currently trying to receive a high school diploma should be
Yes.
Speak volumes to
It
the
does.
fact that it's never too late. And certainly the teachers will go above and beyond whatever it takes to get those students through to the end.
Well, from their experience that they've had in teaching in this type of setting, they can relate to, I'm sure, a whole wealth of experiences that people have brought to the program as far as their stage in life.
And they try to incorporate past experiences. I was into a class in Sydney Mines the other day, and a gentleman who's very worldly and very wise was helping the teacher teach a class in oceans because he had such great knowledge that he brought with him to the table. So, you don't just sit behind the desk. Sometimes you're asked to come forward and share your knowledge with other students. So we recognize talent where we see it, and we try to incorporate that into our lesson plans.
Wow. Thank you very much, Heather, for joining us today. I hope that it will encourage some people to take that step to move towards their adult high school education. And we thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again the next time.